I am the lost young heir of the House of Luck, whose fate has taken a sharp turn. If I'm to believe my luck, I'm only 5 years old and life is just beginning. The fact that I had a difficult childhood did not affect my character at all. No fake young gentleman and no painful tossing and turning between reason and feelings. Everything is crystal clear. I have 7 wonderful sisters who adore me. Ever since the House of Good People found my trail, it's been as if I've been chosen by heaven. I continued to eat the same plain flour as my village neighbors. Look at that grass in that hut. It was the perfect setting for the House of Good. I was truly brave and resilient for my age. The woman who came for me was gentle, but at the same time firm. She held my small, completely inconspicuous hands tightly. "Fan, let's go home with Mom, okay?" she whispered. I looked at her and there were tears in her eyes. I knew that if I refused, she would cry. I don't know what was special about me, but my little heart responded to this pain. I wiped her eyes with my tiny hands and quietly said, "Don't cry." Just 2 words, but they were so warm that she couldn't hold back her sobs. My own eyes were red from crying, and my nose was painfully stuffy, but my tears kept flowing like a stream without stopping. Next to her stood a 10-year-old girl who seemed out of place here. She walked with a slight arrogance, and her gaze was constantly fixed on me. "Haven't you found anyone? Why are you crying?" Looking at my face, the girl showed a strange, almost morbid interest. Judging by her appearance, she was from that very same Chen family. They were all incredibly stubborn. Why did I have to fall right here? She was clearly afraid to admit to her friends that she had a brother like me. Chen Fu looked at this insufferable, stubborn girl. I was simply speechless. It irritated me terribly. We headed towards the car, but not at all for the sake of tenderness. Fan just came back, and his behavior, I didn't want him to think that the family wasn't happy to see him. I didn't care that I was here, but Chen Mo was so angry that he just shook his head and walked away, trying to remain calm. Chen Fu was furious and turned sharply toward me. She was always like this, my little sister. If she dares to offend me at home, I can tell my parents or my other sisters. They will all stand up for me. I looked at her with a sense of dignity. She left with a slight snort and a shy remark. Just 1 word, but it changed the atmosphere. This gentle little one seemed capable of protecting even 2 adults standing nearby. Chen Mu touched my hair and smiled. Before leaving the village, my parents distributed gifts. They went around to all the neighbors to thank them. The locals constantly asked about my life. After the death of the old man who had sheltered me, I ate dozens of meals from kind people over the course of that year. Villagers are simple folk. They helped me to some extent. Of course, there were exceptions, but overall, I was grateful to them. My parents generously repaid everyone, even those who were once unkind to me. They didn't want to forgive those who had wronged them, but their little son was too precious to waste time on revenge. Yes, I was wronged here. They won't take revenge, but they won't pretend everything is forgotten either. After all, it's their fault I got lost. Most of the villagers were kind and accepted me. They were embarrassed to admit the mistakes of others, but I was brave enough to leave. I tugged at my mother's clothes with my small hand. She squatted down to talk to me. I gently approached her with a request. My face flushed, my voice was quiet like a little kitten's. "Can I take the big yellow dog and the plum cat with me?" Having said this, I lowered my head. I was afraid that my demands would seem inappropriate and they wouldn't like it. A broad, warm palm gently stroked my tousled head. The answer came very softly. "Of course, Fan, besides the big yellow and plum ball, what else would you like to take?" The big yellow and plum ball is what I called my cute dog and black cat who always ran after me. When I heard that I was allowed to take them, I broke into a happy smile. Everything turned out just the way I wanted. I bit my tongue looking at the dog and cat who looked a little displeased. What was wrong with taking such freaks with me? The Hashimoto's my friend raised was truly wonderful, but I'll tell you about that another time. My father was a little sorry that I would have to introduce Kashi to this stupid boy, but friends should know each other. No, I couldn't show them what a noisy brother I had, so I took the dog home anyway to introduce her to this little rabbit. My mouth was so tightly closed that Chen Mo was once again dumbfounded under his father's stern gaze, which ordered him to remain silent. Chen Mo flew into a rage and grabbed his stick. "Why didn't you give me a chance to speak? If you can, try to defeat me." Chen Mo was afraid I'd start to get worked up, so he quickly explained, "Don't be so stubborn with that stupid sister. She just doesn't know how to speak well." A smile tugged at the corner of my lips. I actually felt like my sister had no ill intentions towards me. As the luxury cars leave the village, the villagers wave as we leave. I'm leaving for my new life to the family I could once only dream of. Although many were envious, there was no real jealousy. After all, everyone understood that I was a guest and I was a universal favorite in the village. My sister and I sat in the backseat of the car, two toddlers huddled together in our new surroundings. Chenmo looked me up and down and asked in confusion, "How old are you? Why are you so small?" "I'm as tall as two of my peers and I'm much taller than you," I answered quietly, although I was only 5 years old. Chenmo chuckled, "5 years is so short, you'll need to eat more in the future." She added to the others that our family was probably starving me. "And when you get back, don't even think about going out and telling everyone at school that I'm your sister, or I'll beat you up," she raised her fist proudly. I remained obedient and gentle despite her angry shouts. She almost got into trouble for this. She was intercepted by her mother, who seemed very kind. "Have you completely forgotten how to behave with your little brother? I never taught you to talk like that," she scolded her daughter. Chenmo was in pain, but she remained stubborn. "Mom, don't you want someone gentle by your side?" "What's wrong with me? He's so skinny and weird," grumbled my sister. "Other little brothers are white and chubby. I want him to disappear, otherwise I'll be embarrassed in front of my friends." Chen Fu, angry at her words, walked over and slapped Chen Mo on the back of the head. "You stupid girl, your brother doesn't care about you, don't act like that." I watched their argument. Noticing my sister's confused look, I suddenly realized it wasn't all that bad, and I smiled at her with my black and white eyes. The Chen family is one of the most influential aristocratic families in the city. Although the dynasty is only 3 generations old, each of its descendants is a true genius. The family business was concentrated in their hands, and thanks to internal unity, no family member was left out. As I approached Chen's villa, I held my breath, curiously looking at this amazing world outside the window. Was I really going to live in this magnificent house? It seemed unreal to me. The huge difference between my previous home and this palace made me feel inferior, but I tried to keep my emotions to myself. My mother's gentle hand squeezed mine. She whispered, "Zio Fan, we're home." I looked at her, and my father, who was watching us, nodded approvingly. I followed my parents, not daring to look back, and quietly, obediently, like a child, entered the doors of the villa. A man in a black shirt greeted us at the entrance. His hair was gray, and his posture was slender and elegant. He smiled softly and said, "Madam, you're finally back." Without waiting for her parents, Chen Mo blurted out, "Steward, I'm hungry. Ask Liu Shen to cook my favorite dish." Even after a good lesson in the car, Chen Mo continued to behave defiantly. The steward smiled, "Of course it's ready." Then his gaze fell on me. He saw my impassive face, and suddenly tears glistened in his eyes. His smile grew even gentler. Suppressing the trembling in his voice, the steward said, "Young Master Zio Fan, welcome home. I have been waiting for your return." Seeing how thin and emaciated I was, the old steward could barely contain his pain. How much had I had to endure? Chen Fu and the steward looked at each other, not understanding what he was thinking. Chen Mu gently touched my hair and introduced me to the housekeeper. I smiled and quietly said the steward's name. I probably looked polite and obedient, but at the same time, judging by their faces, very sweet. The steward repeated my name twice, his eyes reddening with emotion. "Young Master Zio Fan, you need to eat more. We didn't know what you liked, so we cooked for the old folks." Chen Mu smiled and led me into the living room. Grandfather, who was waiting for us, couldn't sit still when he saw Chen Mu enter. He wanted to ask where his brother was, but Chen Mu remained silent. In front of his grandfather, even Chen, he didn't dare to show insolence. "Grandpa, don't worry," I replied as they slowly approached. "They're just following." "Why are you only worried about your brother? You don't care about me," someone in the household grumbled. The old man just glanced at me. "Can you stop me?" Hearing the footsteps, the old man quickly stood up and tidied up his clothes. He sat back down, trying to look graceful, but his face visibly relaxed when he saw me. Old man Chen, who had managed the family's affairs for half his life, was now truly nervous. It was hard to believe. Entering the living room, I looked with curiosity at the old man at the table. The old man nodded to my parents, and then his gaze fell on me. "How thin and small you are." Suddenly he stood up, and his hands began to tremble noticeably. My father gestured for the old man to calm down, but he seemed ready to rush towards me at any second. A timid smile appeared in my frightened eyes. "Zio Fan, don't be afraid, I'm your grandfather. I won't let anyone hurt you in the future," he said tenderly. He hugged me tightly. He didn't need proof. He immediately felt that I was his own grandson. I didn't understand why my grandfather was crying, but I carefully raised my hand to hug him back. I carefully wiped the tears from my grandfather's face. My voice was quiet and trembling. "Don't cry, Grandpa, I'm here." Grandpa Chen looked at me attentively. He didn't cry, just nodded approvingly, and there was a warmth in his voice I'd never felt before. There was silence around us, only my grandfather continued to watch me intently, sitting on his wooden stool. My words about him having a warm heart made him feel proud, and he couldn't help but praise his little grandson. I blushed in embarrassment, accepting his praise. This modest old man no longer seemed at all frightening to me. His eyes shone with kindness. I felt his heart thaw. Grandpa was handsome, and his eyes reminded me of those I'd seen in old photographs of my grandmother. "You are such a flexible and good boy, but you are too thin," he muttered. "In the future, you must eat well to become strong." Chen Mo, sitting next to me, stared at me with wide eyes. She thought her grandfather was too strict, but now, looking at us, she seemed to begin to understand how much I had changed. However, she quickly looked away, only throwing some routine but kind word in my direction. When dinner was served, everyone began to eat. The entire family except Chen Mo kept their eyes on me. Compared to their concern, my sister seemed cold and distant. I was upset that she was ignoring me, caring only about her plate, but the adults at the table looked at her with obvious disapproval. Caught in the crossfire of 3 pairs of stern gazes, Chen Mo looked rather pitiful. It was difficult for her to eat her chicken wings in peace, because all the attention of those gathered was focused on her. I felt relaxed. The portion in the bowl was so huge that I couldn't finish it, but none of the adults rushed me. When I finished, my mother took me upstairs to change into house clothes. Chen Mu was very talkative, and thanks to his gentle tone, the anxiety gnawing at my heart began to gradually subside. We opened the closet doors. There were so many fashionable and luxurious clothes there that my eyes ran wild. Chen Mu came closer. He carefully pulled out several small sets for me. We sat down on the bed. Mom started preparing these things for me when I was very little. "I bought new clothes every year, hoping that one day you would come back," she said. "Now you can finally try them on." I looked at the rows of clothes, from tiny sizes to the ones that fit me now. My breath caught in my throat, and my eyes clouded over with tears. Deep down, I'd always dreamed of this. Now I knew I wasn't that child no one wanted. "Zio fan, thank God you're back." Chen Mu hugged me. No one but his family knew the hell they'd been through since losing their son. When I was sick, he was willing to do anything to save me. All these years, they never gave up hope that they would find me. Even when only indirect clues appeared, despite being busy, he would drop everything to check them out, only to be disappointed time and time again. And yet he continued to search, afraid of missing the only chance to meet his own son. When the news came this time, the whole family was on edge, waiting for confirmation. Until the very meeting, he was sure that it was me, and the paternity test was just a formality to finally reassure everyone. "Zio fan, you have 2 more sisters," Chen Mu said. "One of them is currently abroad on an important project and couldn't return in time. But you will see her soon," he added, opening the book and introducing the rest of the family to me in a soft voice. There were 2 girls in the photograph, one with a cold expression on her face, the other more gentle, but they were so similar that I recognized them immediately. "The one who looks cold is your older sister. The one with glasses next to her is the other one. They are twins. The older sister has a difficult character. She is rarely calm, preferring to remain aloof. And the second sister is very kind. She works at a research institute, so it's difficult to contact her now." Chen Mu patted my head. "Your sisters are looking forward to seeing you home." I looked at their faces in the photo album with my black and white eyes and couldn't help but sigh. My sisters are so wonderful and beautiful. They seemed to sense my fears and tried to allay them. "They both look very much like you," Chen Mu smiled. "They'll like you very much too. When you went missing, they nearly turned the whole city upside down trying to find you all these years." I just nodded quietly. My sisters seemed like the embodiment of kindness to me. Chen Mu showed photos of other relatives, focusing especially on Chen Mo, who was only a few years older than me. "She's been used to being in charge since she was a child," he explained. "No one but her grandfather and older sister can control her. If she says something rude, just tell us and we'll sort it out." "Of course, Grandpa," I replied. I was too shy and small to get into conflicts with my sister. We talked for a long time. I saw pictures of myself as a child where I was a plump, tender, and very handsome boy. What a difference from how I look now. Mom said tenderly, "My little fan was always a handsome boy. Now you've just lost a little weight, but soon we'll fatten you up and you'll be the most handsome boy in the family." I blushed in embarrassment. Mom pulled out another old photograph. It depicted a beautiful woman in a kippah looking like a fairy from legend. "This is your grandmother," Mom sighed with a slight sadness. I cuddled up to my mother, listening to her stories about our grandparents, and for the first time I truly felt at home. After we finished looking at the photos, Mom invited me to take a bath. I washed my hair and body with fragrant soap. Then I put on a pair of beautiful blue pajamas with a teddy bear on them. I was still a skinny baby, but in these new clothes I looked much better, as if I had come alive. That night I slept with my mother on an incredibly soft and comfortable bed. At first I was a little shy, but my mother hugged me tenderly and I gradually calmed down. I pressed my head against her chest, feeling like a little defenseless kitten. Everything that happened today seemed like a beautiful dream to me, from which it was painful to open my eyes. For as long as I can remember, I always knew that I had neither a father nor a mother. And after my grandmother's death, it was as if the sky had collapsed and life became truly miserable. I remembered those difficult days when I lived completely alone, and almost no one protected me from adversity. The quieter Mom became, the quieter I became. My voice trembled and my nose turned red. I was crying from the overwhelming grief and happiness. "Thank you, Mom, Dad, and sisters," I whispered. "Thank you for not giving up and looking for me." I was only 5 years old, but life in a poor village taught me to be sensible and diligent, although I had no idea about the future. I had absolutely no idea how to behave in this new reality. I gently pinched my thin arm, feeling a slight pain to make sure this wasn't a dream. I could only whisper it quietly to myself. Feeling unexpected joy, I raised my hand and touched my face. The love of the gods seemed incredible to me, and I couldn't help but smile. Looking at my sleeping mother, I walked barefoot out of bed, feeling the soft and comfortable slippers with my feet. I took a few cautious steps with a joyful smile, then knelt down and carefully adjusted my mother's blanket. I snuck into the bathroom, played with my sleeves, and took off the dirty clothes I was wearing yesterday, but I was at a loss. I didn't know where it was customary to wash clothes here. I went out into the corridor, and the housekeeper, who had gotten up earlier than everyone else, heard a rustling sound downstairs. He looked up and looked at me in surprise. "Young Master Fan, why did you get up so early?" I greeted him politely in a quiet and gentle voice. "Grandpa, good morning." It touched his heart so much that he approached me quietly and casually, looking at me with warmth and slight pity. He sat down in front of me and asked, "Did something happen?" I felt shy and hid my fingers behind my back. "I wanted to wash yesterday's clothes, but I don't know where to do it," I admitted. The housekeeper was stunned. He suddenly remembered my past life and it hurt him. "Young Master Fan, you don't need to do this. We have servants and the lady has prepared so many new clothes for you." I didn't wear my old clothes for long, but I got used to them. His words made me think of the luxurious outfits in my closet. Do I really have to wear something new every day now? I thought that my old clothes were very different from what they wear here, and if I wear them, they will laugh at me. But then I decided, let them laugh at me. The main thing is that they don't laugh at Mom. I raised my head proudly. I nodded obediently. "Okay, I have a lot of new clothes that my mom prepared. I won't worry." The steward smiled, looking at my good-natured expression. "That's good, but why did you get up so early?" I woke up. I used to be feeding the chickens and ducks, going into the mountains for firewood, or watering the garden at this time, I replied. He listened to me, and there was such pain in his eyes that I felt embarrassed about my habit of getting up early. "Can't you sleep?" he asked. I nodded. "Young Master Zio Fan, why don't you watch some cartoons?" he suggested and led me to a soft sofa. He turned on the TV, and I became immersed in watching, forgetting about everything else in the world. In the village, I saw television only briefly in other people's houses, and because I was always busy, I had no time for it. I stared at the screen with my eyes wide open, unable to look away. "Grandfather, I haven't washed up yet," I said to the butler. "Then let me take you," he replied. But before he could continue, his father's voice came from above. I looked up with my big bright eyes, and my father's face instantly softened. "Zio Fan, come here. Dad will take you to wash up, okay?" The butler happily gave up his seat. It was a great opportunity to strengthen our relationship, and I met my father's gaze with anticipation. I bowed my head politely, "Thank you, Dad," and jumped off the couch. As I walked up the stairs, I approached my father. He extended his large palm to me, and I hesitated before placing my thin hand in it. it was so warm. I felt completely safe, inhaled the familiar scent, and felt my eyes grow moist, but I immediately lowered my head so that my father would not notice. My father took my little hand in his, slowed his pace, and led me to the bedroom. I stole a glance at him and couldn't help but smile. Mom was still asleep. She woke up when she heard the door open, and seeing us, she quickly sat up in bed, looking with affection at how my father was carefully holding my hand. The mother didn't immediately notice her husband enter. She was holding her little son, so sweet and gentle, but upon seeing his father, she suddenly pulled back a little. Dad came up to me, sat down next to me, and hugged me tenderly. I felt so excited, as if everything that had happened yesterday had been a dream. I hugged Mom around the neck and pressed myself tenderly against her. I tried to console Mom, letting her know that Fan would always be there for me. Meanwhile, Dad was already busy helping us with our morning chores. Mom was busy getting ready to help me wash my face. She asked, Fan, do you want to wash your face yourself or have someone help you? I blushed slightly at her concern. I can try it myself, I replied, although the sink was a little high for me. Dad noticed this immediately, brought a small stool, and smiling, supported me by the shoulder. As he helped me settle in, I made a soft noise and then burst into laughter. It was my new toothbrush. Dad, in his smart shirt, pulled out a pink toothbrush for me and carefully squeezed some toothpaste onto it. Thank you, Dad, I whispered. I took the brush and, under the watchful eye of my parents, began to diligently brush my teeth, as my mother taught me. She bought a special natural product for children. It didn't irritate the skin and smelled nice. Finally, Dad grabbed a warm towel. He carefully wiped the foam from my face, leaving a light, gentle kiss on my forehead. It made me feel so attached to my parents. Mom carefully applied some baby cream to my face. And then Dad started combing my hair. He was always there, trying to do everything as best as possible. He watched me with such love, wanting to take care of his little son's hair himself, and his mother looked at us with pride. Don't be rude, Mom smiled. Don't hurt Fan. Dad was indignant. Why do you think I'm rude? I'll practice and do it carefully, right, Fan, he said to me with a smile. I leaned against my mother's shoulder and nodded, okay, Dad. Mom kissed me on the forehead and I smiled shyly. It was all so new and wonderful, and it was already just after 3. We went down to the living room where Mr. Chen, my grandfather, was leisurely drinking tea. When I saw him, I was a little confused, but gathering my courage, I approached him with a welcoming smile. The old man smiled and patted my head. Are you hungry? Do you want some breakfast? I shook my head quietly. My answer was gentle and obedient. Fan isn't picky, Grandpa remarked, and it was true. Being unpretentious in food is a good thing because I need to grow, I thought, listening to my grandfather's praise. Fan will definitely grow up tall, Grandpa said contentedly. The breakfast was very filling and looked magnificent. There was so much stuff on the table: cute dragon-shaped buns, fragrant seafood porridge, wontons, and a cup of hot milk. I looked at this abundance, my eyes darting around. My stomach rumbled with anticipation, but Dad said gently, Fan, eat slowly. Don't force yourself to eat or you'll get a stomach ache, he added. After breakfast, Grandpa took me for a walk around the villa. There, I met my dog and cat, whom I'd brought with me, and was overjoyed. By the way, Grandpa, where are Makyu and Dahua? I didn't see them yesterday, I asked. He laughed. Don't worry, your pets are fine. The maid gave them a bath yesterday and they'll be living here with you soon. Thank you, Grandpa. My gratitude came through very clearly, and Master Chen was clearly touched. Father, looking at us, was happy, although deep down he seemed a little jealous. Grandfather clearly singled me out. When I finished eating, Dad suggested we go to the mall. I nodded quietly and thanked him. He was even surprised by my politeness. Mom looked at us and smiled, seeing how harmoniously we communicated. She laughed slightly at my father and grandfather. They were both clearly trying to win my attention. I picked up a small dragon-shaped bun and took a bite. It was so delicious. My eyes sparkled with pleasure, and I could not hide my joy. Even though I was thin, I looked very cute when I ate with gusto. Don't worry, your sister is still sleeping. She won't get up before 10, so you can have breakfast in peace, said the grandfather. The buns were filled with tender meat. I used to be afraid to eat too much, afraid of being overweight. In the village, I always controlled myself so as not to seem like a burden, but today I could finally eat my fill. This breakfast was truly delicious, and I felt truly happy. I ate 5 small lobsters, a bowl of porridge, and some dumplings until I felt full. I felt a little embarrassed and put my chopsticks down, looking guiltily at the others. Chen Mu noticed that I had stopped eating and asked kindly, "Are you full? You can have more if you want, but don't overeat or you'll feel sick." The others at the table also looked at me with kindness. There was no trace of hostility. My restless heart was finally at peace. "I'm full," I replied with a gentle smile. Grandpa Chen contentedly wiped his mouth with a napkin. "Look how deliciously Xiao Fan ate today, a whole bowl of porridge," the butler remarked happily. "After young Master Xiao Fan returned, everything seemed to come alive," he continued. Even Master Chen's appetite improved. I laughed seeing how happy everyone was that I finally ate. My voice was low. "Grandpa, you need to eat more," and Old Man Chen laughed loudly in response. "Okay, in the future I'll eat with you. We'll dine together more often." I nodded in agreement, and Grandpa led me off to find my pets, my cat and dog. By the way, my dad, Chen Fu, was also standing nearby without saying a word. "Weren't you supposed to be going to work?" Old Man Chen glanced at him quickly. I was holding my dad's hand when he replied, "I'll make it, it's not too late. Besides, I'm the boss of the company. Who would dare say anything to me? It's more important to me to spend time with my son than to go to the office," he added, squeezing my hand tighter. Chen Fu was so engrossed in talking to me that he completely forgot about business, and Grandpa just chuckled coldly. Previously, he considered his eldest son to be balanced and reasonable, but now, looking at his behavior, he began to doubt this definition. "He hasn't even had time to really get used to it yet, and you're already arguing," the old man grumbled. Father and son began playfully bickering, while the steward and mother merely exchanged glances, speechless. "Why are they, such grown-ups, behaving like children?" I watched with bewilderment. I squeezed their fingers vigorously, trying to reconcile them. "Grandpa, Dad, let's go together," I pleaded, standing in the middle. The old man was happy. "Okay, for Xiao Fan's sake, I'll forgive your childish father," Grandpa said, his gait showing no trace of age. Dad could barely contain his smile. I almost rolled my eyes at their childish arguments. The three of us set off to look for my pets. They settled in a spacious wooden house in the garden. It used to be a storage room, but after all the old things were taken out, it was turned into a real house for animals where my smart cat and dog lived. Seeing us, they joyfully wagged their tails and ran towards us. The dog's tail resembled a huge fan. But when they were about to rush towards me, a shadow suddenly descended from above. The ball, that's what I called my black cat, jumped deftly, and everything happened in an instant. It landed right in my hands. The big yellow dog, taken aback, sank to the ground. The cat in my arms narrowed his eyes and made some kind of sound, looking down at the dog. He was so pleased with himself that he sat importantly in my arms. And he began to lick his paws gracefully. The dog looked at the cat curiously. It was a truly amazing duet. The yellow dog jumped again, trying to bite the cat, but is he really that easy to deal with? In less than 2 seconds, the cat managed to hit the dog in the face. Grandpa and Dad were worried that I would get hurt standing between them. But they worried in vain. Despite their quarrel, the pets always remembered me and tried not to harm me, even when I tried to stop them. They both suddenly froze, looking at each other, and the conflict instantly died down. I placed the cat next to the dog, putting my hands on my hips, and looked at them with my big eyes full of anger. They obediently lined up. I felt like a little adult giving a lecture. "I've told you many times that Big Yellow and the Ball are family. In a family, you can't hurt each other or fight. If you're naughty, I'll scold you," I said. The adults watched this scene with pleasure. I threatened to cut off their fluffy ears if they didn't make peace. At that moment, I remembered that Dad and Grandpa were still here, and I suddenly felt shy, blushing at my own seriousness. Old Man Chen couldn't help but laugh. "Our Xiao Fan is absolutely amazing. Give them a hug." I buried my face in the cat's soft fur. He smelled nice, having just taken a bath yesterday. "Xiao Fan, do you want to play some more?" Dad asked with a smile. I raised my head and, clicking my heels loudly, approached my father and grandfather. The cat and dog, so recently wary, now felt safe. Grandfather asked, "Xiao Fan, do you like this garden?" I nodded and said it would be great to have a swing here. "Okay, if you want it, so be it," they agreed. All the adults were happy to see me in such a good mood, and immediately began planning what else to add to the garden. "We'll put up a slide, a wooden horse, a sandbox," they dreamed, turning my garden into a playground. I was busy listening to their plans. "No, enough swings," I said softly. Dad patted my head. "Xiao Fan, don't be so modest. You're our baby and we'll do whatever you want for you." He knew how cautious I was, and it made him sad. He wanted me to grow up as a carefree child. I took his hand, and even though I was small, I felt truly content and happy. I have a father, mother, grandfather, and sisters. I never even dared to dream of such happiness until I met them. Chen Mu gently touched my hair, looking at me with love, and I smiled back at him. Like a little sunflower, old man Chen whispered as he watched us. He furtively wiped his eyes. The fog that had enveloped our family all these years had finally cleared because I had returned home. Even though the whole family was there, they tried to act as usual, but I could see how deeply my loss had hurt them. 3 years is too long to simply forget. My gentle voice brought my grandfather back to reality. I looked at him with my bright eyes and smiled, seeing him take a step forward, trembling with excitement. He seemed to take years off just looking at me. It was important to everyone. My smiles helped the family cope with difficult emotions. Unfortunately, there was one sloth in the family who probably only planned to get up for lunch. At that moment, a car pulled up to the villa, and a man who looked very much like my father, Chen Fu, quickly got out. "Dad, I heard Xiao Fan is back," he exclaimed, turning his gaze to me, who was standing next to Grandpa. Seeing how I looked, he blushed with pain. "How can you be so thin? What a sin!" A beautiful woman was walking behind him. She came up to me and touched my face with regret. "Xiao Fan was so chubby when he was little. How did you get so thin?" I only squeezed my grandfather's hand tighter. I looked at these strangers with curiosity but felt no fear. They radiated such genuine concern that I trusted them immediately. Old man Chen took a sip of tea and introduced them to me. "Xiao Fan, this is your uncle, and this is your aunt." I greeted them politely. My voice was quiet but loud enough to make my aunt and uncle, who had no sons of their own, beam with joy. "Xiao Fan is so good. This is a gift from your aunt," she said, placing a protective amulet lock around my neck to protect me from all harm. My uncle hugged me and didn't want to let go. "So small and soft and already so big. We've missed you for so long." The Chen family always had a lot of girls. My parents have 3 children and my uncle also has 3, but they are all girls. I was the only boy here. It all happened when the company was just getting on its feet, and the nanny to whom I was entrusted suddenly disappeared. At that time, there was a serious crisis in the family. Relatives betrayed the grandfather, and the family was in a deplorable state. Everyone was too busy, and this carelessness was taken advantage of. At first, they thought the nanny had simply run away, but then an investigation began. It turned out that my kidnapping was part of a plan to put pressure on the Chen family and create problems. Some part of their plan went wrong, and as a result, I found myself separated from my family. My disappearance was a terrible blow to everyone. Eventually, the grandfather became enraged, dealt with the traitors, and forced the father to regain the will to live. All those responsible for the kidnapping were jailed. Today, my cousin Xiao Jiang came to meet me. Chen Jiang greeted me, and I looked at her with my big eyes. Next to her stood her older sister, red-haired Chen Jiang, with beautiful eyes and a proud look. Grandfather Chen frowned when he saw her. Pain flashed in his eyes, but it was clear that this girl had a very sharp mind. She looked at me frowning. She came over and lightly ruffled my hair, laughing cheerfully. This sister was a bit pushy, but seeing how angry Grandpa was, I just smiled. She began to lecture her daughter. "Silly girl, what are you doing? Xiao Fan is still so little, he doesn't know anything." She seemed to be teasing me, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I just smiled sweetly at her. Chen Xiaoshu and Chen Jiang. They suddenly realized that their son had become much kinder and calmer than they expected. The whole family went into the living room. I walked ahead, looking back at my 4th sister. She made a funny face at me, and I laughed back. This little brother was completely defenseless and skinny. Chen Mo, my other sister, still hasn't gotten up. Chen Jiang sat down on the sofa, but noticing her grandfather's angry gaze, she quickly calmed down. "Xiao Fan, go and call your sister," said Grandpa. Chen Mu patted me on the shoulder, hoping I would have a good relationship with my sisters. He knew his daughter. She was a little chatty, but not really mean at all. I walked up to Chen Jiang on my short legs. She stood up and walked with me toward the stairs. "Let's go, Xiao Fan," she said, and I smiled sweetly back. 4th sister. "Sister 4, have you come to visit me today?" I asked in my quiet voice. She was pleasantly surprised by my warm treatment. Suddenly, she picked me up in her arms, and I found myself in her refreshing embrace. "Little brother talks so much, do you like me?" she asked proudly. Children were usually intimidated by her wild, almost animal-like energy. She thought that I would be afraid of her like the others. But not only was I not afraid, but I was drawn to her, enchanted by her strength. She clearly liked my openness. I nodded, putting on the sweetest face I could muster. I like you, Sister Jiang, I said tenderly, just like my parents, Grandpa and Zio Mo. I like everyone here. I told them that many people like me, those who are nice to me at school, often walk with me on the playground, although I don't remember exactly when that was. Chen Mo, chewing on a chicken leg, walked out of the room. Hey, fourth sister, it's so noisy in the morning. Chen Jiang looked at her with an ironic expression. Look at the sky, it's still too early. Chen Mo was clearly not in a good mood this morning. She began to tease Chen Jiang. What do you mean? Sister is going to have dinner, not to have fun. Are you from Noji? Chen Mo interrupted them, tapping his lips. I know you still have to call me miss since I can't stand up on my own. After saying these words, she turned around and returned to the bedroom, and Chen Jiang only watched her go. This girl was still incredibly cheeky, and I wanted to teach her a lesson someday. I couldn't help but smile to myself. Before I could laugh, I received a light slap on the back of the head from Chen Jiang. What are you laughing at? I shook my head innocently, and Chen Jiang pinched my hair, pulling me closer to her. Eat more, you have no cheeks at all, she grumbled. Chen Mo, having changed into normal clothes, quickly ran out of the house. As we passed by, Chen Jiang and I continued to laugh proudly, not paying any attention to her. Chen Jiang was still tugging at my hair. When will I finally gain weight? I thought, trying to keep my hair from looking too dry. Your hair is too sloppy, my sister said. After we eat, I'll take you to the hairdresser to get it done and something fashionable. I raised my head, examining her hair. How do you like my red hair? No, let's just change your style. She didn't dye her hair herself, but her grandfather always threatened her with his cane for such antics. But she grew up in a household where the more they were forbidden something, the more they wanted to do it. Her hair color changed every few weeks, and the family almost got used to it. Despite my family's reluctance, she still wanted to do my hair, hoping that the adults wouldn't make a scene. Live for your own pleasure while you're still young, I thought. Hearing her words, I panicked a little, but I nodded obediently, fearing that she would choose something even stranger for me. I listened to her carefully, afraid that the end result would be worse than it was now. Chen Jiang nudged me. Do you think everyone is like you? Look at Chen Mo's hairstyle. I'm telling the truth, fourth sister, you just have a strange aesthetic. I'd be embarrassed to go to the gym with you, I laughed. Chen Jiang remained cool. Chen Mo reacted instantly, throwing a lotus at us. Are you waiting, little man? I can't defeat you now, but a gentleman's revenge will not be long in coming. In 10 years, I'll have the advantage. She was self-critical and knew perfectly well that she couldn't yet compete with Chen Jiang, so she decided not to fight. Chen Jiang let out an insulting, humiliating laugh. I'm looking forward to it. You won't be my equal even in 10 years. Chen Mo was furious. She clenched her fists arrogantly, raised her middle finger, and asked, Chen Mo, life isn't easy at all, is it? Chen Jiang's angry voice rang out, and the car fell silent. Chen Mo rushed to the stairs, grabbed the handrail, and slid down on her butt, laughing. Uncle, auntie, fourth sister wants to beat me again, he shouted as he ran away. You were the one who provoked me first, he shouted, hiding behind Aunt Zio's shoe. My voice sounded pitiful. Auntie, will you really protect me? I'm so little, how can I provoke my sister? Chen Mo knew very well that his parents would not interfere, so he sought protection from his aunt, who was young and beautiful. Aunt Chen patted him on the shoulder and gave her daughter a stern look. Chen Jiang, you want to start a fight? Then come and compete with your mother. Chen Jiang's eyes turned red with frustration. She just rolled her eyes. You always protect that little fox. Chen Mu listened to their argument. Don't pretend to be innocent. You don't do something useful every day, do you? The grandfather calmly watched his grandchildren. Where's Zio Fan? He suddenly asked. My small hand clutched the blue ribbon. I showed my head with a timid smile. Grandpa, I'm here. My voice was very quiet. Everyone saw me as a little white rabbit, shy and timid, and everyone laughed. I hurried downstairs. After breakfast, my mother was going to take me out to play. But Chen Jiang suddenly hugged me. I was surprised for a moment, then laughed joyfully and hugged her around the neck. Thank you, sister. Chen Jiang tried to look carefree, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. Mom didn't even notice the gesture, but everyone else was surprised. Chen Jiang usually didn't tolerate children. She had a nasty temper, but she was surprisingly patient with me. Mom and Aunt Chen exchanged glances. I saw my sister's heart soften when she looked at me. This stupid girl is actually pure at heart, Mom thought. If you were kidnapped one day, I wouldn't survive it. What's so special? I'm still my little brother's sister, Auntie. Let's go to the hairdresser, Fan, she said. This is not nice at all, Chen Jiang said as she continued eating. Old man Chen glanced at her. Get your red hair back. You still have the nerve to say that Xiao Fan's hairstyle is ugly. Chen Jiang rubbed her nose and fell silent. She looked like her father wore a school uniform, and her short haircut was her last bastion of stubbornness. She said she wouldn't change a thing. I approached Grandpa. Old man Chen, noticing this, began a peculiar introduction, deftly switching from a serious tone to tenderness. For me, this atmosphere was complete harmony. Despite the double standards of those around me, they treated me with endless warmth. I moved my little legs, heading straight for Grandpa. I didn't even have time to ask for help when the old man, happy and contented, picked me up in his arms and carefully sat me down on a chair. In principle, I could have sat up on my own, but adults preferred to hold me on their laps or seat me as if I were the most important guest. The dinner was as sumptuous as the previous day. Each dish looked like a work of art, and the aromas were simply delicious. I chewed the duck feet with relish, my eyes shining like stars. I felt incredibly happy, and the looks from everyone at the table made the food even more delicious. My short-sleeved outfit looked very cute. Although my wounds still bothered me a little, I felt myself growing stronger and healing under the care of my family. My aunt jokingly said she wanted a son, but because of the Chen family genes, they only had girls. I think she just wanted to chat to fill the silence. My uncle's 2 daughters drove him crazy every day, and he feared that with the arrival of another child, he would become a regular hospital patient. My elders made sure I ate more meat, gradually introducing vegetables into my diet. But sometimes I would get distracted, and the contents of my plate would end up scattered all over the table. There was only a day left before the rest of the relatives arrived, but I already felt so safe that my fear vanished. An atmosphere of smiles now reigned in the Chen household. "It's okay, Xiao Fan," one of the adults said. "If you can't finish your meal, Dad will be happy to help you." Mama Chen smiled tenderly, and this tenderness was transmitted to everyone around her. Old man Chen patted my head with pleasure. "Grandpa doesn't mind finishing Xiao Fan's dinner." I suddenly blushed at these words. I puffed out my cheeks, encouraging myself. "I can do this. I need to eat to grow up healthy." Chen Mo was the picture of seriousness at the table, and I didn't know how to react to her playful jibes at Chen Jiang or how much my parents and grandfather had changed. "I'm the only boy in the family, you know," Chen Jiang laughed, and this laugh seemed a little ridiculous to me, but kind. "It's okay," I answered to myself. "I hope that my uncle and grandfather will treat me differently than you do." Chen Mo's fists looked strong, but how could I possibly compete with her? Why were all 4 sisters so strong? The meal proceeded in harmony, as if enveloped in warmth. My black cat, our big dog, and I felt truly at home. After dinner, we got into a comfortable car and went to the shopping center. I tried to be polite and accepted my aunt's card. She was incredibly generous and insisted on pampering me. "Why do we need this? Xiao Fan has a mother," Mom said, smiling. "There's no need to waste money. Xiao Fan's father can earn enough for everything he needs." "But as an aunt, I want to please the child," the aunt replied. The 2 women argued, still smiling. They were ready to quarrel over which of them would buy me a gift, without caring how it looked from the outside. I just sat next to Chen Jiang, who was watching this performance with interest, as if it were the best movie. I laughed. They were real friends, almost like sisters, and I didn't expect to become the bone of contention in their battle for attention. They agreed to buy me clothes and shoes. When silence fell, Chen Jiang only sighed enviously. "Mom, I see you can't wait to spend money. Maybe you could give me some pocket money," Chen Shen wrote in a message. "First, learn to draw, or at least have a normal argument with me," Chen Jiang replied, touching her nose. "I'm not your daughter yet, so you can treat me like this." Chen Shen hugged her, begging for money. "Okay, if you get into the top 5 on the exam, then we'll talk." Chen Jiang immediately frowned. Chen Shen was furious. "Mother Chen can't give me happiness." I leaned into my mother's warm embrace, listening to their bickering, and secretly laughed too. The thriving city outside the window was ablaze with lights. I've never seen such tall buildings before. When we got out of the car at the shopping center, I was shocked. I felt like a little bun lost in this sea of light. I even felt dizzy from the abundance of space and lights. I held my mother's hand tightly to keep from getting lost. First, we went to a luxury salon where they were supposed to take care of my skin. Here they knew how to handle children. All the medications were made only from natural ingredients. They were absolutely soft and did not cause irritation. Since both women were VIP clients here, they knew everything about the place, and I trusted them. I watched them quietly while they left me to rest in a comfortable chair. Meanwhile, the group's general meeting had come to an end. Chen Fu glanced at his watch. He still had 2 hours left before work, but he felt drained. His assistant watched the boss furtively. The boss is completely out of his mind today. This was already the 6th time he looked at his watch, and it was clear to the assistant that Chen Fu wanted to escape from work as soon as possible. Previously, this only happened right after the wedding, so what has changed now? At this moment, Chen Fu's phone rang, and he answered without even thinking. It was my voice. Chen Fu's emotions instantly softened. It was Xiao Fan, whose voice could melt even the hardest heart. The special assistant was confused. Xiao Fan, who is this? His gaze became suspicious. Boss, Dad, when will you be back? Mom, Aunt, and I are waiting for you at home. My voice sounded so gentle that it seemed like the scent of home could be felt through the phone. Chen Fu felt his heart melt completely. He was already rushing home. What did you do with Mom today? He asked. We went to the salon to get my hair cut. My mom and aunt bought me a lot of new clothes and shoes, I replied. Listening to his little son excitedly recount the day's events, Chen Fu smiled and headed to his office with a light heart. Along the way, he seemed so distracted that he barely noticed his colleagues' greetings. They must be crazy to smile so stupidly, I thought to myself, sensing his happiness. And everyone around was just wondering why the usually stern Chen Fu was so beaming today. People whispered, "What's wrong with Mr. Chen? Who's he calling? Why is he so happy?" Gossip flew around the office, but they couldn't even guess the real reason. He couldn't bring himself to hang up. There was still half an hour left before his shift ended, but his thoughts were already far away. What important reason was forcing him to rush so much? The special assistant was confused. Mr. Chen had called himself Daddy on the phone, but he couldn't imagine which daughter he was speaking to so tenderly. Besides, everyone thought there were no boys in the Chen family, while rumor had it he only had a son. He wanted to ask what was going on, but he didn't dare. However, he showed the best qualities of an ideal assistant. Mr. Chen, Mr. Li has arranged dinner, he said, but Chen Fu only waved his hand, putting down the papers. I'll wait until I get back to take care of the unimportant matters. I'll go first, he said, and there was no doubt in his voice. His assistant was amazed. Usually the boss was extremely punctual and never left work early, even for his wife. But today everything was different. The boss seemed to have reconsidered his priorities. He had to sort out work issues with the secretaries himself, while the boss was rushing towards his happiness. Chen Fu literally flew out of work, and at this time, old man Chen was already sitting at the gate of the villa. A black cat sat on the threshold and our big dog next to it. All three waited, looking down the road. The housekeeper stood next to the old man. Grandfather had been waiting here for 2 hours, refusing to return to the house. It's okay, I'm just basking in the sun, he repeated to the housekeeper. Xiao Fan will be back soon. Finally, a familiar car appeared. The old man jumped up, excited to the point of tears. Grandpa, I'm back. The car hadn't stopped yet, but I already stuck my head out the window, waving happily. Chen Mo turned to look at me in the car. That childish Chen Jiang is laughing at you, one of the sisters said. Chen Mo just smiled. A large yellow dog and a black cat were waiting for me with my grandfather. The cat jumped from the dog's head straight onto my shoulder. His long black tail was wrapped around my neck, and the dog was nuzzling my leg. I took my grandfather's hand and we walked slowly towards the villa, talking as we went. How long did you wait? I asked. Not long at all, he replied. It was good for me, I got to bask in the sun. Xiao Fan, will you be with Grandpa every day from now on? Of course, Grandpa. We were happy, as if we'd lived together a lifetime, even though it had only been 2 days. Mom and Aunt watched us from the side. They couldn't help but smile when I added, Grandpa, next time I'll be basking in the sun with you. Chen Mo patted the old man on the shoulder, chuckling, and Grandpa grumbled in his usual manner. It's okay, don't bother an old man with your attention. But his eyes shone with love. Grandpa, do I look like someone who would bother you? I asked. Chen Mo laughed and I looked down embarrassed. Chen Mo stared at me. Don't laugh, you're so cute when you're embarrassed. I tried to hold back a smile, but my eyes gave me away. Old man Chen lightly tapped Chen Mo on the head. Don't be rude to your little brother, you're too picky. My grandfather stood up for me. We continued walking towards the house. Suddenly there was the sound of an engine, and I turned around. Dad, why did you come back so early? I asked. Chen Mo smiled broadly upon hearing this. The old man stroked my soft hair. Your dad is back. He looked at my shining gaze with a smile. I felt shy, but I couldn't resist and ran towards the black car, whose door was already opening. Chen Fu got out of the car, and Grandpa Chen quietly muttered to himself. That hooligan must have skipped work again. Young people today have no respect for their work, but there was only pride in his voice. Chen Fu came over and hugged me. I was shy, hugging my dad around the neck with my little arms. My face was flushed, but my eyes were shining with happiness. Did Zio Fan miss his dad? He asked. I nodded, feeling like the happiest child in the world. I missed you too, I answered quietly. Chen Guosheng laughed. Look at him, he's a true son of the Chen family, and he looks so handsome. It seemed like Chen Fu had broken all the rules today in order to get home quickly. What if I'm lazy? As CEO, I have the right to spend my time on what's really important, my family, he replied, hugging me tightly. Chen Fu merely chuckled and touched his nose. He knew his family was growing up to be a worthy successor, and he had no reason to worry. At that moment, the city's ruler, far away in another land, suddenly sneezed. His assistant immediately worried that his master had caught a cold and noted that it had become quite chilly. He quickly draped a black windbreaker over the ruler's shoulders. The man's face remained impassive, like a mask frozen for thousands of years. People who tried to talk to him were usually frightened by his cold, piercing gaze. Communicating with him required a great deal of effort. Chen Huang, that was the ruler's name, silently accepted the robe and donned it. At that moment, he took out his phone and opened it. A cute little brother, Me, appeared on the screen. The little one in the photo was staring at the screen with wide eyes. My eyes, like two crescent moons, sparkled like thousands of stars. My hair, after being cut, looked so soft and fluffy like a small animal's. Chen Mu took this photo especially for him. Chen Huang sent the photo to his wife with undisguised pride. He stared at it for a long time, unable to tear himself away. His cold, hard gaze suddenly softened. Though to those around him his emotions seemed unchanged, something within him subtly warmed. His assistant, who had been closely monitoring all changes in his boss's behavior, noticed the change with surprise, but of course, did not dare ask any unnecessary questions. As soon as the boss glanced at the photo again, he became surprisingly polite and collected. All current issues were resolved promptly. Buy me a plane ticket in 2 days, he ordered. Even though he still had a whole week left to complete his work, Chen Huang was already eager to go home. He looked at the photograph and recalled the time when his little brother was just a few months old. At that time, he wasn't yet so deeply immersed in the company's affairs. He used to have a lot more free time, and he couldn't imagine that his 1-year-old brother would one day grow up like this. He and his 2 sisters often carried me in their arms, but then I disappeared. When his younger brother was finally found, it wasn't his mother or even his father who screamed first, but his sister. Chen Huang clenched his fingers tightly. He was ready to do anything to be reunited with his family. Today she worked overtime, and her assistants and subordinates were falling off their feet from fatigue. She was a very strong woman and had no idea how much she missed her brother, who was so far away. After a delicious dinner, I went for a walk with my grandfather. I was thinking about how to thank my family for their love and care. I wanted to give everyone gifts, but I couldn't decide what to choose. These serious thoughts caused funny wrinkles to appear on my face, and I looked like a little old man.